Chapter 1. You are listening at FameTV.info. Haven /T died yet. The young man opened his eyes suspiciously. He didn't /T seem to think he could live. I fell down from the top of Shan mountain, but I didn't /T die. Well, it seems that God has eyes. I just touched the girl /S little pp and let my innocent little man hang up. It seems unreasonable, haha. The boy was half laughing, and suddenly gave a sad scream and suddenly hugged his head. At this moment, there was a sharp pain like a needle in his mind. At the same time, some memories, strange memories, did not belong to the memory of the youth at all. They flashed into his mind like a movie. That scene could not exist on the earth, like a fairy tale, but it made the youth feel the same, it /S like another one /S own experience. This is a wonderful feeling that cannot be described in words. Tian continent, the power of stars, Jiang empire, the Yang family, the youth pursuing the peak of martial arts, and the youth also called Yang Tianlei. As time went by, Yang Tianlei kept shaking his head and groaning in pain. Only two thoughts swirled in his mind, constantly impacted and fused, making Yang Tianlei in a trance. It seemed that the two Yang Tianlei in his mind were both himself and his own experience. I don't /T know how long it took. The pain gradually disappeared. Yang Tianlei rubbed his eyes and sat up slowly. It must be a dream, but it /S really fucking real. Yang Tianlei whispered after making sure he was completely awake. My clothes. I wipe. I smashed all the stones. Yang Tianlei was surprised to find that he was naked, but the stones under him were broken into pieces. How could it be? Looking around, Yang Tianlei suddenly opened his mouth in shock and stared like a copper bell. He looked at the familiar scene in front of him. It was clearly the scene he had just experienced in his dream. Turning around and looking under him, /T that the giant stone in his dream. It /S just, why are they broken into pieces? Independent small courtyard, independent construction of quite strange houses, is also their own dormitory in the dream. Shit, are you still in a dream? Yang Tianlei pinched himself fiercely and felt a sharp pain. It was clearly not a dream, but why did he appear in the space of the dream? Yang Tianlei stood up slowly. Suddenly, he felt something wrong. He seemed to be a little short out of thin air. He looked down and stared at his body in surprise. The original bronze skin turned into jade. What /S more? Yang Tianlei felt that his whole body had shrunk, and the thin body seemed not to belong to his own body. It was full of explosive power and seemed to be much stronger than ever before. I wipe. /T this me in the dream. Have I really become the cup man in the dream? Thinking of the miserable cup boy in the dream, Yang Tianlei was shocked but more depressed, but Yang Tianlei vaguely felt that there was a slight difference between himself now and himself in the dream, and that feeling full of power had never appeared before, even the boy in the dream never appeared. Yang Tianlei. Just then, Yang Tianlei suddenly heard someone calling his name outside the hospital. His voice was soft and gentle, like a clear spring passing through a stone and a yellow warbler coming out of the valley. It clearly spread to Yang Tianlei /S ears. It was very beautiful. It was obviously the voice of a young girl. Then with a squeak, the gate was opened, and Yang Tianlei turned to look at it. Two screams sounded at the same time. Yang Tianlei opened his mouth and stared as if he were stunned. He stared at the girl who suddenly broke in front of him and looked at the action for a moment. The girl also stared in shock. Her beautiful face turned red and her snow-white jade neck was stained with a layer of morning glow, emitting amazing beauty. The girl seemed to be confused. Beautiful, really beautiful. 10 times more beautiful than that girl. Yang Tianlei stared straight at the super beautiful girl with white clothes, graceful figure, purity and beauty. In his heart, he secretly compared the girl with the beauty who let him fall from the top of Huashan mountain just because he accidentally touched a small ass. The conclusion was, the goddess once in my mind is not worth mentioning in front of this girl. On time, 82, 54, 87. The big one, the thin one, the upturned one, the devil /S figure, the angel /S face. It /S2 on time, especially this temperament. It /S so pure. Yang Tianlei, what are you doing? Just when the water splashed in Yang Tianlei /S mouth, the girl woke up from the powerful visual impact, covered her eyes with shame and anger, and said with a trace of anger. No. Yang Tianlei realized something and covered his life roots swaying between his legs like lightning. Cough. Sorry, beauty, it /S too hot today. I can /T help coming out to cool down. I /M sorry. Yang Tianlei said, retreating and quickly retreating into the room. It /S absolutely impossible to walk naked in front of a beautiful woman, especially before she is fully developed. Of course, if a beautiful woman is naked in front of herself, there is absolutely no problem. As the saying goes, a gentleman is honest with his eggs and a villain hides his chickens. Therefore, Yang Tianlei can even guarantee that he will be honest with each other at the first time. He wants to be naked. It /S healthier to be naked, but at this time, Yang Tianlei secretly wondered how the beauty knew her name, but he had never seen her at all. Such a beautiful woman, even if the original owner of the body is not interested in women, but as long as you have seen it once, you should never forget it. After entering the room, Yang Tianlei saw the familiar furnishings again, a bed, a table and a wardrobe. The layout was very simple without any superfluous accessories. Yang Tianlei took out a suit of clothes and put them on his shrunk body. It fits perfectly. At this moment, Yang Tianlei is convinced that what appears in his mind is not a dream, but the memory of the former master of the body. Although it was hard for Yang Tianlei to accept for a while, he knew that this was an unalterable fact, and he did. Through. A little bit of reluctance and loss flashed in Yang Tianlei /S heart. Of course, it is only a little bit. Yang Tianlei knows from his memory that the owner of this body is very beautiful, but it is much better than him who has no relatives, no pain and no love on earth. Hey, Yang Tianlei, you /LL come out after you get dressed. What /S the matter with you today? Why don't /T you go to morning exercises? I am your new teacher. The beauty in white adjusted her shocked mood and said quite loudly, but she was secretly cheering herself up, he is only 11 years old, but a little boy. Besides, this is his dormitory. I can /T blame him. I am already a teacher, so I should have the demeanor of a teacher. However, it is still difficult to calm the hearts of beautiful women in white. Although Yang Tianlei is only an 11-year-old child, there are many parts that men should have. The visual impact on beautiful women in white is absolutely huge. You know, this beautiful woman in white is only 18 years old, but she is a serious and innocent little girl. Of course, she has seen that thing. It /S just a baby. She hasn't /T seen anything like Yang Tianlei. Morning exercise. The new teacher. Yang Tianlei came out shivering. His black and white eyes, which looked very simple, stared at the super beauty in front of him, and said in his heart. No wonder there is no information about the beauty. It turned out to be a new teacher. Why? Don /T you believe me? Yang Tianlei /S question, heard in the ears of the beautiful woman in white, seemed not to believe her teacher /S identity. The beautiful woman in white immediately stared at her beautiful eyes and asked. Xin, I most believe in the words of the beautiful teacher, but... Just what? The beauty in white was a little strange. The guy in front of him seemed very different from Yang Tianlei, who was said to be silent and cultivated in addition to cultivation, especially his eyes and tone. Beautiful teacher. Yang Tianlei scratched his head. My name is Zhang Zihan. You can call me Miss Zhang. Mr. Zhang, it /s like this. I seem, may and should have broken through the barrier. Although Yang Tianlei has just come to this world, he already has the memory of a teenager in his mind, and it is like another personal experience. Therefore, he can clearly feel that he is very different from the former cup man. That explosive force is the symbol of breaking through the barrier and becoming a first-class star. Yang Tianlei, the former cup holder, began to practice the foundation building skill, Bear King forging muscle skill, at the age of 5. On the third day, he miraculously sensed the power of the stars and was able to introduce it into his body, breaking the record of Jiang Empire in one fell swoop, making him the key training object of Jiang College, the top university of Jiang Empire, and the hope of the family. Everyone thought that Yang Tianlei would surely surpass anyone in his family and become the pride of the younger generation of Jiang Empire. Everyone also thought that in less than a year, he could use the power of stars to quench 639 muscles around his body and become a first-class star. However, until today, he is still like when he was 5 years old. The power of stars absorbed has no time to quench his muscles. The meat will disappear strangely. At first, Yang Tianlei /s elders and school teachers didn't /t care much, but with the passage of time, when his peers and even younger children broke through one by one, the once gifted youth gradually changed its taste in the eyes of the public and became a real mediocre. At the same time, naturally, he also lost the qualification of the key training of Jiang College, but the stubborn Yang Tianlei didn't /t give up his dream. He worked as crazy as ever. He wanted to recapture the halo he once owned. He could fail anyone, but he must never fail his mother. Yang Tianlei clearly remembers that his mother, who is often bullied by his aunt and his second mother, also clearly remembers the smiling face that his mother showed for the first time when she learned that she was a cultivation genius. He also clearly remembers what his mother said to him. I am not afraid of being bullied, and I don't /t care about being bullied, but I hope you become a strong man, a real strong man, an indomitable strong man, and a strong man who surpasses the peak of the 9 stars. That /s my only hope, the hope to live. At that time, the young Yang Tianlei didn't /t understand why his mother so strongly asked him to become a strong man. Now he still doesn't /t understand. However, he secretly vowed to fulfill his mother /s wish. He must become a strong man who surpasses the peak of the 9 stars. However, yesterday, on Yang Tianlei /s 11th birthday, when the deadline came, his last effort still failed. He is unwilling, he doesn't /t want to give in, but he knows that at the age of 11, he can /t be a star, so he can only be a martial artist slightly stronger than ordinary people in his whole life. This law, which existed thousands of years ago, is like an unbreakable yoke, which completely imprisons him. It is basically impossible to break it. Yang Tianlei felt real despair for the first time. He failed to live up to his mother /s expectations and could no longer realize his dream. Bang bang. In desperation, he howled wildly and beat the boulders under his body desperately. His fists were bloody, but this degree of physical pain still couldn't /t get rid of his unwillingness and suffocation. So desperate, he had a death wish. His head directly hit the boulder under his body, and suddenly blood flowed out. Rain, blood and tears filled the whole boulder and dyed the whole boulder blood red. However, in despair, he didn't /t find that the bright red blood integrated into the boulder at the moment of contacting the boulder. What dyed red was the boulder itself, and the rain on the surface of the boulder was as clear as ever. The rain is getting heavier and heavier, the dark clouds are getting denser and denser, the thunder is becoming more and more terrible, and the blood is flowing more and more. When Yang Tianlei could no longer shed a drop of blood, he also fell into a complete coma. The boulder under Yang Tianlei /S body has turned red. There are colorful lights flashing in it, which seems to have life. He clearly felt that his body was gradually cold. He knew that life had gradually left. Although there was a trace of reluctance and attachment in his heart, he was more relieved. At this time, a magnificent energy that did not belong to any of the 5 elements of gold, wood, water, fire and earth suddenly radiated from the boulders under him, breaking through layers of dark clouds, as if passing through layers of space barriers and entering the infinite starry sky. Click. A moment later, a more violent thunder suddenly cut through the night sky. A huge thunder with a thick man suddenly fell from the sky, and it was splitting on Yang Tianlei /S body. His clothes suddenly turned into ashes. His thin body also sent out a burnt meat fragrance, which obviously lost all his vitality. At the same time, the boulders under him made a loud rumble, and then heard a click-click sound of stone fragmentation. The boulders with a radius of several meters burst into pieces. At the same time, 2 colorful lights escaped from them, one of which flashed into his almost completely scrapped body, while the other seemed to be summoned, go straight into the sky and disappear. Click. It seemed that some mysterious reaction was triggered, and a more powerful thunder broke out again, tearing open layers of dark clouds and exposing stars all over the sky. Far away in the starry sky, in the direction of the disappearance of the colorful light, a more dazzling colorful light suddenly appeared, which seemed to echo the colorful light in the stone. It flew from far to near and at an amazing speed from the deep and vast night sky. When the 2 colorful lights merged together, they suddenly sent out countless golden lights and came to Yang Tianlei like lightning. At this time, the golden lights suddenly seemed to have life. They began to hover around Yang Tianlei and turned into strange words flashing golden lights. Each word seemed to be full of the supreme principles of heaven and earth. They wrapped thousands of roads around Yang Tianlei like flying flowers and kept hovering and dancing for dozens of minutes. When the golden words became clearer and clearer, they even began to integrate into Yang Tianlei /S body. When thousands of golden words were integrated into Yang Tianlei /S body, the colorful energy around him suddenly condensed over him, emitting more magnificent golden light and turning into 4 huge golden characters. Shantian Sutra. In a flash, he disappeared into Yang Tianlei again. At this time, the wind, rain and lightning suddenly stopped strangely, as if everything had never happened, revealing a little star light again, and there was peace and harmony between heaven and earth. Click. Click. An hour later, his body made a sound like an eggshell cracking. The layer of charred black on the body surface broke and fell off one after another, just like reborn, and his whole body exuded a light colorful light. Break through the barrier. Yang Tianlei, have you become a star disciple? Zhang Zihan said in shock, and the beautiful voice increased by 8 baidu. Yesterday was my 11th birthday, and I finally broke through the deadline. Yang Tianlei said in a deep voice. His mind was unconsciously integrated into the young man who once pursued the peak of martial arts. At this moment, Yang Tianlei more clearly felt the young man /S state of mind, which was not afraid of any difficulties and obstacles in pursuing the peak of martial arts. But now there is a kind of, keep the clouds open and see the moon, comfortable. At this moment, the former Yang Tianlei and the current Yang Tianlei had a slight resonance. 2 persistent and firm lights naturally flashed in his eyes. His slightly thin body even exuded a fearless momentum to move forward. Gong. Hi. Zhang Zihan said, slightly shocked, but you are still my student before you pass the promotion exam. Let /S go and I/LL take you to morning exercise. Zhang Zihan finished saying that Yang Tianlei could not be questioned, so he stretched out a small hand like jade and gently held Yang Tianlei /S hand. Yang Tianlei /S nerves suddenly tightened. Although he was extremely obscene in his heart, he actually had no experience of intimate contact with beautiful women. Let alone sex, the girl /S little hand had never been held. The only time was when his brain was hot. He touched the little asshole of the goddess in his mind, which made him tragically cross the world. So, at the moment when Zhang Zihan, a super beauty, grabbed him, the slippery, soft and boneless feeling made this guy feel like an electric shock. At this time, Yang Tianlei felt a soft but powerful force suddenly gushing into his body from Zhang Zihan's small hand. Then, there was a whistling wind in his ear, and the surrounding scenery began to retreat rapidly. In an instant, he reached the speed of the 100-meter sprint. I wipe. Yang Tianlei stared in shock. He looked at the beautiful women around him. He was shocked. Was he watching a movie? Legendary Wulin expert. Such a petite body contains such powerful energy. Memory is memory after all. Although Yang Tianlei''s memory is like his own personal experience, and he already knows some incredible things, the shock brought by personal experience at this time is completely different, much stronger and more direct, invisible. A stronger sense of expectation appeared in Yang Tianlei''s heart. This is a world where the strong are respected. ISN''T This my favorite martial arts world. Swords and shadows, happy gratitude and hatred, proud of the Jianghu, and attracting countless younger sisters to bow down with peerless skills. Listen to the full novel at FameTV.info, direct link in the description.